Hey, welcome back to No Hype Beer Reviews. Unless it's your first time, then welcome and please consider subscribing and hit that notification bell below so you don't miss any content. Very excited for today's beer. Not one I was planning on reviewing anytime really ever. I didn't know if I'd see it or not. So and it's kind of weird timing, just maybe even a week ago, if that, I had reviewed the Ommegang Three Philosophers aged in red wine barrels. And I had gone to the beer store to get something else that they ran out of, so I actually started looking around, and they just got these in, and these are the bourbon barrel-aged version of Three Philosophers. I knew it was coming out, I just didn't know when we would see it or anything like that, and I was like, oh man, that's kind of too perfect not to review tonight. So the red wine one, I will say this, it was very good. I prefer regular Three Philosophers to that. And that was in the barrel for 3 months. And as it warmed up, I started getting a little bit more of the red wine in barrel, which I liked, but it still wasn't where I would want it. But it was still a good rendition of that beer. This one I was noticing, it's actually been in the bourbon barrels for 6 months. So I'm hoping to get more of that bourbon. I just looked at some of the 750s I have from other years of the bourbon barrel aged quad from Ommegang Three Philosophers, blah 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 blah, and I cannot find an ABV on any of them. But this one is saying it is 9.5, which is also a little lower than the bottles behind me from different years, going all the way back to 2011, which I think was 9.7, 9.8, something like that. And these closer ones, these more recent ones, are 9.7. Anyway, short version. I'm kind of surprised that it's a lower ABV given it's the same beer. I would assume, aged in these barrels, I would assume it'd pull out some of the spirit, but maybe I haven't bought, because these guys, not to go off the rails, yeah, this is from 2014, so I guess the most recent one I have is 2014, so this is currently 2019, so maybe they've lowered the ABV a little bit. I don't know, I guess I'm going to have to get some and check it. I said about the ABV, it's 6 months versus 3, which gives me a lot of hope. It does have 3% Belgian Creek, so it has some cherry in it, if you don't know about this beer. And it's notes of dark chocolate, vanilla, molasses, and oak. And yeah, it definitely sounds up my alley. Should be super fresh. I don't see a can. Oh, no, it does have a canning date. Or a Best By. It looks like it has or both. Looks like July 19th of this year. So it's currently the beginning of September. How long has it been? I haven't even opened the glass, or I haven't even opened up the can and poured it into the glass. Kind of proper glassware. It's a Three Philosophers glass, not specifically barrel aged. Very dirty, apparently. Like my glass is always. Oh, I saw someone do this and it worked. Yeah, not bad. Yeah, it looks like Three Philosophers. It's brown, or most quads. It's brown in the center. It has like that ruby-ish red, crimson kind of thing on the edges. Light brown. Almost exactly 2 fingers of a... I'm gonna call it khaki, maybe slightly darker than khaki. Depending on the lighting, might be slightly lighter than khaki. Around khaki. The bubbles are small. They're breaking up, and you see like little... peaks and valleys forming in the foam. But yeah, looks like a good beer. Let's get into the aroma. So first thing I get is the traditional, like that for this beer, traditional, not traditional style, Cherry Creek, playing with what I think of as a traditional quad. Some raisins, some grape, some like almost like fruity sugars. But I am getting some vanilla, oak, and coconut, actually. It doesn't say anything about coconut, but I definitely get some coconut in the aroma. So it's, again, 6 months in the barrel, so I'm hoping that it actually comes through. A little bit of that brown bread, but it's sweet smelling without being cloyingly sweet. It has those fruits that I mentioned, some like figs as well. That barrel's coming across nicely. Not punching me in the face, which I'm okay with, but it's coming across more than the red wine was, which bodes well for the taste. So the only way to find out about the taste. Cheers. There's the barrel a little bit. Okay, there it is. So what's that? About 75-80% of the way through the tasting experience. Not that, which isn't accurate because I'm still tasting actually. It's a really long finish, which is a plus for this beer. But like the initial, what I'll call the initial taste, right? The initial gulp, the sip, the liquid entering and leaving your mouth. How about that? About 75%, 80% of the way through is when I get some of that barrel and bourbon. Before that, it is pretty spot on, just what I think fresh Three Philosophers tastes like. Not overly sweet, like I said in the aroma. Some of the fig, raisin, grape stuff comes through. I think age pulls that out a little bit more. There's a little astringency. And I like this beer, or the base beer fresh, but I do prefer it with some age on it. And that's like one of the things I prefer the age doing to it. Actually, you know what? Of course, I say that. That was a lot of that grape characteristic that I really like in quads. Some of that Belgian sugar or candy sugar. The barrel, like I said, comes in that like last quarter of it. And I get some of the oak tannins, which help dry it out in the finish. Again, not that's overly sweet. I don't want to give the wrong perception. It is somewhat sweet. But those oak tannins help dry it out in the finish. Good creaminess throughout, and especially in the finish, which I don't always associate with dry, obviously. So that's kind of interesting and cool. A little bit of that coconut comes through, like I got in the taste or in the aroma, which I appreciate. Some of that vanilla that they're saying, and I said, they said chocolate, right? Dark chocolate. Oh, molasses. They said oak, which I get. Molasses, I don't know if I specifically get that. But let me see about the chocolate note. Okay, I don't think I'd say molasses. Not that I'm an expert on molasses. I could see hints of dark chocolate. And I think part of it is it's a bourbon barrel aged beer. That's not a stout. And that's something I traditionally associate the bourbon with the chocolate stout or chocolateness in a stout. So maybe that's why I'm thinking it should, or saying it's and processing it as minimal. I think it's pretty clear I like this better than I like the red wine one, which was still a good beer. This one I'm going to say is it's actually very good. And I bought a 4-pack because I typically like bourbon barrel-aged beers. I'm looking forward to aging, and I'm super curious what aging these beers in cans does or does not do. But I'm glad I put them up there with my other ones. I think you might be able to see some of those kind of like Belgian bigger beers up there. I like this. If you're like me and you like quads, you like Three Philosophers, you like bourbon barrel aged stouts, I think this is worth picking up. Even though it was in there for 6 months, it is not, again, punching you in the face. Yeah, it's very good. It's very good. I think I still prefer regular aged a little bit, at least a year. But for fresh, yeah, this is definitely very good. One of the reasons I'm a little off is I realized I'm not wearing my wedding ring and I'm like trying to like hide my hand, like no, I'm still happily married. But yeah, have you had this? Have you had the red wine one? Are you a fan of the regular one? You know, my favorite part of all this is the interaction with people, and so let me know if you've had this and what you think about it. And if I persuade you to buy it, and you come back and tell me what your thoughts were for sure. I love that too. Besides doing it here in the comment section, check me out on Instagram and Tapped. No hype beer reviews at both those places. So always please like, comment, subscribe, and most importantly, imbibe. Cheers, everyone.